KO Artist Sports are here with the one and only Abel Sanchez. Tell me, man, 2 days away, just personally for you, obviously you're talking to Tom daily, things like that. How close was this to just, we're just not going to get a fight?
Wait a minute, is it 2 days ago or 3 days away?
No, what are we at? Wednesday? 3 days away. Yeah.
Oh, man, you're rushing me here. No, actually, when we found out the testing was on the positive side, Gennady and I both talked to Tom and tried to keep the date together, try to keep the fifth together, because it was important not only for his fans, but Cinco de Mayo is a date that we'd like to keep for a couple of years or a couple more years. We knew that Tom promised that he'd try to keep it together. We knew that the venue may not be Vegas. We knew that all that. We knew that it may be not on pay-per-view, because the guys that were calling out to replace him, it would be impossible in 3.5 weeks when Canelo finally gave up when he said he wasn't going to fight. It would have been impossible to negotiate a fight and promote it in 3.5 weeks with people like that, because it seems like they want the lottery when they're fighting Golovkin. So in order to keep the fifth together, Tom had to go resort to a guy that was going to be reasonable, one, and that was legitimate, two. He was able to do it with Maharaji. We were trying to do it with a young man from England, but he priced himself out. So it was difficult. We didn't have the time. We were caught in the middle of not by our doing, but by Canelo being dirty. We were caught in the middle of a storm that we had nothing to do with, but we needed to rectify to be able to fight the fifth.
When OSullivan pulled out, is that like kind of another blow? It's kind of like another blow to the camp. I mean, do you really kind of, I mean, obviously you're trying not to focus on that. You're just, Tom's still working, we still got to work. But is that just kind of a mental like letdown? Like, damn it, like we're a little further away from actually getting somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not for Gennady, because Gennady continued to train to fight somebody on the fifth. But for us, yes, because we thought we had a.
You had it.
Yeah, we had it right there in the bag. I don't know what happened to. How fast it fell apart, or what the negotiations happened, but from what I heard, he priced himself out. But bringing it back to HBO and taking it away from pay-per-view, the numbers are not the same. So because they're not the same, you have to make sure that it's structured in a way that everybody benefits, but it can't be that you're giving the farm away either.
Yeah, definitely. So you got Maharaji, fought some top junior middleweights in his day, close losses, dropped Andrade, close fight with Charlo, close fight with Lara. But I was talking to some of the other media members. These guys, kind of like Maharaji, said once they kind of got in a little exchange and Maharaji tagged him, they felt that boxing was maybe the safer route to try to beat Maharaji. Maharaji said, which I've never heard before, and I wanted to ask you about, he was like, I'm happy that I'm not going to have to look for Triple G. He's going to come at me. I've never heard anybody who's faced Triple G, even people who aren't even like close to facing Triple G, like, man, I want him to come at me. Like, it seems insane almost.
Well, you know, I hope so. I think that the StubHub has become that venue where you get great action fights. There's numerous fights that have made history there, that where two guys just went at each other and gave the fans what they came to see. If Vanes does that, I believe it'll be a short night for somebody. Right. You know, if he's got a good right hand. If he lands a good right hand and he hurts Golovkin, who knows? But I hope he does that just so that the fans can be treated to the kind of fight that are supposed to be at the StubHub.
It's supposed to be on Cinco de Mayo too, yeah, right?
Cinco de Mayo means Mexican style type of fight, where two fighters just want to prove their dominance over the other one and give the fans, I'm not going to say a slugfest, but a fight where there's punches landed and somebody goes down, somebody gets up, and those kind of fights that we remember seeing from our past heroes.
It's funny, I actually went to the Boxing Hall of Fame on Saturday and saw like the Lupe Pintor and Carlos Orata, and I was telling everyone, I was like, this is why our dads love boxing right here, is because of stuff like that, right? There
was a fight at the Forum between Carlos Orata and Alfonso Zamora. Oh, he was there too. Just unbelievable. I mean, how many fights did the Chiquita have with Carbajal there? At the, you know, so those kind of fights are the fights that we miss. I got in trouble not too long ago for saying something about a particular style, but I think that we have to understand. Stacy, you know who Stacy McKinley is? First of all, he used to train Mike Tyson.
Where he was in Japan and had like the glove in the eye.
No, that was Aaron Snow. Oh, Stacy trains Amir Ahman, the one that just fought. Okay.
Yeah.
Stacy calls me up about 2 weeks ago and says, I just said something to a reporter that said, Abel Sanchez just said that 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, and he got in a bunch of hot water. And he says, well, he's telling the truth. These fighters need to understand we are in the entertainment business. And if we don't entertain, people are not going to come back and watch us. Right. So hopefully this fight on Saturday night gives us that kind of entertainment that we continue to support not only these two fighters but boxing in general, so that the pay-per-views that have dwindled in the past go back up to what they used to be, so that these fights become significant in stature and history.
I think also just it just harkens back to a time when just those great fights were on Channel 7, on Channel 11, where, you know, everyone just Friday night, Saturday night, just turn on the TV and you get to watch a real competitive war like that.
Yeah, we live in different times.
Definitely.
We live in different times, but we still want what we had then. But today we're not willing to pay for it. But we want what we had then. In order to get what we have then, because of the times, it's going to cost us a little more. But that's in general. That's in life, period. But you're right. Those fights spoiled us.
Yeah, no, definitely did. Looking at those highlights, I'm telling you, I was like, wow, like this is why, you know. For you personally, obviously, after OSullivan, the kind of main name was Maharaji. So how does that game planning start? I mean, obviously it's not signed and sealed and delivered yet. And even when it was, I mean, you have, what, 2 weeks, was it, or something, like 10 days, whatever it was, so I mean, how much can you really come up with a solid game plan for this guy?
You know, I've always been the type of coach that prepares my fighter to be 100% my fighter. I want him to be 100% Gennady Golovkin. I could care less who's in front of us. Obviously, if it's a right-hander or a left-hander, we take that into consideration. But I want Golovkin to be 100% him. And if I train him to be 100% him, it doesn't matter who they put in front of us. If I now have to adapt because, okay, let's just say Vanes has a great right hand. If I have to adapt Golovkin to try to stay away from that right hand, now Golovkin's not 100%. Now we're adapting to the other guy. Right. I've never believed that. I've always believed that if I can't beat you with 100%, I can't beat you.
So obviously nothing's guaranteed. This is a tough fight on Saturday, but everyone, obviously fans, everyone they're looking forward to September. I talked to Tom about it, just kind of asked if there's anything going on with negotiations. He says he's kind of talked to Eric, but not, you know, much. Obviously everything kind of depends on this weekend. Yeah. But okay, well, first, before we get to that, Canelo did take the hair sample. What were your thoughts on that, and those results of that seemed to kind of clear him from intentionally using clenbuterol? You know, for as much as we know.
Yeah, I don't think it clears anything. I think that what he needs to do is to continue testing to the point where he's proven. And I say proving only because I didn't do anything wrong. He did. Okay, proving to the public and proving to the boxing world that he's a clean fighter. He's not doing that. He takes one test and he's eligible to petition for the commission back in late August for a license without doing nothing in between. That makes no sense to me. The fact that he took a hair follicle test without telling anybody means that he wants to keep it hidden. Why? Just because what if it comes up positive? You know. So if I was taking a test that people expected me to test, I would want the whole world to know that I'm taking that test, so that when it comes up negative, see, I told you so, I could say I told you so. So it proves nothing to nobody, it proves nothing to me, it proves nothing, but it doesn't matter that it proves it to me. He's got to prove it to the public. And by proving it to the public, I mean continue to be tested, and put it out in public, put it out there so that people know that you're a clean fighter. The commission did their investigation. I have to believe the commission did everything they could do to try to get to the bottom of it. They determined that it was the meat. Okay, let's just say that it is. Along those lines, his legacy has been tainted because of that. A lot of people don't believe that that's the truth. I have to believe it because that's what the commission said. But in the meantime, from now till you apply for your license in late August, prove to the commission and prove to the boxing world that you're a clean fighter.
Does that, in your opinion, like you were saying, it's tainted his career? Do you feel that kind of almost kind of co-signs it a little bit? Is like it because he's not taking the test during this time? Is it almost kind of like, look, if you want to prove you took the hair, like you said, you would have told everyone that you would have taken the hair sample just in case it didn't, you know, if you were 100%, you're clear, right? So, I mean, are you kind of like the fact that he isn't testing during this time, do you feel that's more of an indication of maybe a question mark?
Guilt? Maybe so, but I think that it would take one fight, this particular fight, for him to do everything in his power to prove himself, and I think the people would forget. I think that after this fight, If he happens to be successful, I don't think he's going to be, but if he happens to be successful, I think he'll be cleared. Why? Because he did everything in his power to prove that he made a mistake, but he's not doing it. So that means that after this fight, the next fight is going to have the same kind of stuff hanging over it, you know, and that's unfortunate. He's a very good fighter. He's very good for boxing. He's very talented. I would hope that he thinks more about the future than just about this next fight.
Are you kind of almost looking forward to the time when the press conference of that fight does happen? So, because obviously all the questions, you guys have a fight, like you guys are in front of the media, like they really aren't, you know. So are you kind of like looking forward to the day it's like, okay, ask him, like, you know what I mean? Like, don't ask us, ask him.
That's what we're saying right now. Unfortunately, those questions have to come up because of what happened. But right now, the 5th is the fight in our mind. If we don't win the 5th, then no sense in talking about the next fight. So those questions should be asked of him, but along the way, the things that I'm saying just so that this fight is possible in September. So that this fight is possible with nothing hanging over it.
You've seen Gennady in the gym, you've seen him working hard this whole time, obviously the mental thing, all that, but so just kind of lastly, give me your prediction on this fight. How does this fight end on Saturday?
I think it's a war for the first 3 or 4 rounds because Vanes is going to do what he says. I have another Armenian fighter that's a champion right now, that's a cruiserweight champion, a WBA cruiserweight champion, whose mindset is... No, his name is Arsen Goulamirian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just knocked out a Belgian guy that was undefeated back in March. But anyway, their mindset, these Armenians are like the Russians. You know, they're so committed, they're so focused that if Vanes comes out and does that, we're going to be treated to a great fight until somebody lands a good shot.
That's true, man. Definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Abel, for your time, man. Much appreciated. Thank you.